Hello, 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 and welcome to the show. My name is Osandra, but you can call me Wordy Girl, and you're tuned in to the Just Do Stuff podcast. On this episode, I talk about some fun games I've been cooking up lately. Then, I answer a few questions from you before being joined by Marcus Richardson and Nathan Hicken from Aurelius Whitlock's Murder Museum for a chat on creating puzzles and mysteries, followed by a game that I made that fits right in with the theme. So, what are we waiting for? It's time to just do stuff. Happy time zone, folks. It's me, Osandra, also known as Wordy Girl, and I'm here to talk about a couple of things about this episode. Now, I know this show is really delayed. I planned to debut it in January. I had a lot of guests lined up. A lot of people said yes, and I even did a lot of interviews. But unfortunately, so much stuff happened in a short period of time. And things got more hectic than I wanted them to. I also got sick, so I was not able to do some of the things. And then I did also get laid off from my job, which I thought would create a little bit more time, but it's kind of having me scrambling, trying to figure out stuff that I can do to survive. So thank you guys for being so patient with me, and I apologize for the delay of this podcast. This is the first episode of this Just Do Stuff podcast, and is this the way I wanted the podcast? Of course not, but the motto is just do stuff, so I'm just doing stuff. The first order of business is I'm supposed to tell you about some cool games that I've been working on lately. The kinds of games that I've been working on, I just finished the Someone Else Would birthday Shenanigans month of the month of February, which was very interesting. It wasn't quite a game, but I did have a lot of mysterious little tidbits and things like that planted in so that fans can be guessing about what kind of content was coming up next. I've also been working on trying to get the Epic Character Challenge together, which you will hear me talk about in a bit with Marcus and Nathan. But that is scheduled now tentatively for May. I can't believe I've almost forgot to mention, I've been working on this game. It's a solo RPG zine for Zine Quest and Zine Month. Zine Month was actually last month, which was February, and that's when I was doing the birthday shenanigans for Someone Else Would, which is my current work in progress main character. And the new agent manual is Will-O-Wisp's official onboarding guide, a solo journaling RPG zine. It's kind of a game, but it's more of an adventure and a journey into your own mind to figure out what kind of agent you want to be in the world of Will-O-Wisp. You get to choose ranks, choose weapons, figure out who you are, what kind of history you have, what kind of missions you've gone on in the past, and stuff like that. And when you're done with it, you will have a fully fleshed out character that you can use in other Will-O-Wisp adventures. So these are games that take place in the world with my character, Secret Agent Someone. And it's just a really fun thing. I actually have this on Kickstarter. This is my first official Kickstarter project ever. I did try Zine Month before. I did U4G07, which is speak for You Forgot. And that was the first zine that I worked on. I still have it. I only got like 4 supporters, but it was more of a pre-order thing, and it wasn't like a Kickstarter, which is building momentum because there's a deadline that you have to meet to raise these funds or you get nothing. So the new agent manual has gotten more traction. The goal is quite lofty, but like I said, I've been trying to figure things out because so much has been going on in my life, and I'm trying to survive while still trying to do creative things and still trying to help people. So if you would like to support the new agent manual, please go to my website at wordygirl.com, WORDIGIRL.com, or you can click the link in the show notes, and there should be a link to the new agent manual on Kickstarter. And like I said, Zine Month was last month, but my goal is lasting until my birthday. My birthday is coming up very soon. It is March 13th, so we don't have very much time, but I'm actually pleasantly surprised that we've made about 25% of our goal as of this podcast airing, and I am just extremely grateful to everyone who has contributed, to everyone who has shown support, and to everyone who has shared the project. And if you would like to back this project, or if you would like to share the project, please do. It is much appreciated, and thank you so much for all of your efforts and all of your support. We have like only a week to go, and I know it's possible that we can make this goal within the week, but if we don't, I will not be able to keep any of the money that I have supposedly raised, because it will only be mine if we make the full goal. So I have implemented a lot of add-ons, like the U4G07 zine that I did last time. Also, the Little Baby Duck book that I wrote, and so many other things. There are so many opportunities for games and stuff like that that you can go ahead and choose as add-ons to your pledge. So all support is appreciated. In addition to this, I've also been planning out my EnigMarch stuff. I know I'm late, but Marcus and Nathan and I talk a little bit about Sarah Wilson and the EnigMarch project in the interview, which is a bit of foreshadowing for the next episode, in which I interview Sarah and we talk about EnigMarch. So, at the time of this airing, EnigMarch is probably underway right now already. So please do join in. Only a few prompts have been released so far, and it's not too late to join into the making and solving fun right along with me. So I'm going to try my best to do that. Next, I'm going to answer a question that was sent in. If you would like to send in a question, feel free to comment on this podcast wherever you are listening to it, or you can send me a message at osandrawhite@gmail.com, or you can go to the justdostuffpodcast.com and submit a question there. I have a question from Dream Cartographer, aka Barry Brook, who asks, how do you go about just doing stuff? How do you manage to juggle so many projects, stay motivated, learn new skills, etc.? So, I will let you know, it is very challenging to do. It's been quite a lot. And I personally wouldn't advise overworking yourself. If you're trying to do a lot of stuff, like the podcast says, just do stuff. But it's just do what you can. Don't overwork yourself, which is obviously sometimes I'm a hypocrite because sometimes I overwork myself. But the main thing is, if you're trying to start out doing stuff, don't put too much on your plate where you will get instantly burnt out and instantly discouraged. Start by doing little things and just do what you can. And if you can't, then don't worry about it. But if you can, then do it. Just think of a goal you want to reach. If you want to write something, just write. If you're thinking like, okay, I want to write a 50,000 word novel, but I don't know where to start. Well, just write 2 sentences. Just sit down and write 2 sentences. If at the end of the 2 sentences you say, hey, I like that, I want to keep going, that's not enough time, I'm going to keep going, then great. But if after the 2 sentences you say, I'm exhausted, I am tired, I don't want to do this anymore, then that's enough for today. But at least you just did it. You did something. You got some words down on the page, and those words can help you. So next time you want to write something, just sit down, look at those 2 sentences, and think, what should I add to this? And when you make little goals, it makes things more achievable. So I suggest taking whatever you're working towards, making it into an achievable goal, and doing what you can. That's all I try to do. And of course, just keep praying and keep going. Now, it's time for the interview time. This first episode that you were going to hear is basically, it was recorded in autumn of 2023, and it has not been released until now. And I am very disappointed that I was not able to release it sooner. I am going to talk with Marcus Richardson and Nathan Hicken from Aurelius Whitlock's Murder Museum, and they have an awesome podcast. They're also going to talk about a secret project they've been working on, which I've since figured out, because it's been announced, is The Golden Idol 2, I believe. And Bill and Danny from Escape This Podcast are also working on that. So please do look out for it. At the time of this release, I do not think it is out and available yet, but I believe that you can pre-order it on Steam, if I'm correct. You might just be able to put it on your wish list, but I know you can do something and be notified when it comes out. It is basically a puzzle game, and with people like Marcus and Nathan and Bill and Danny working on this, I'm sure that the puzzles are going to be very intriguing. Another thing that happened in this little interview here, unfortunately, my gain on the microphone was way too high. So there's going to be a lot of annoying clipping from my voice. I apologize again. Hopefully it's bearable, because I really want you to hear Marcus and Nathan. And I really want them to be back on the show to do them better justice, because this episode was very haphazardly thrown together as past Osandra in the past on this interview will say, flailing behind the scenes. That was not an understatement. The last thing I want you to know about the interview is, for some reason, it cut off at the end. There wasn't too much left, but it does end on a cliffhanger, so to speak. So, yeah, I apologize for that. I got a notification that there is an error. Nothing is being recorded. And I said, I hope it is. It looks like it's still being recorded. Unfortunately, it was not. Well, my voice was, but Marcus and Nathan dropped off. But we will see what happens there at the end. Stay tuned, and I will fill you in. So, without further ado, let's jump back to autumn of 2023. All right, so I don't know how I'm going to introduce you guys. I'm probably going to do a little thing, but for now, welcome to the podcast. We have 2 very special guests today, which I am so honored to have. We have Marcus Richardson.
Hello. Oh, she called us special, Nathan.
Yes.
And Nathan.
Awesome. Hello.
You guys are very special. And I am, it's really fun to actually, meet with you guys and talk, because I usually hear you guys, and sometimes I'm like, I feel like I kind of know them, but not really, because you guys don't know me, of course.
Right. The weird thing about listening to podcasts is, uh, sorry. The weird thing about listening to podcasts is you're like, yeah, I'm really familiar with them, but they never talk back. You know, like I have thoughts,
So rude.
and they just never address them.
Yeah. But it's great to actually have you guys here to respond to.
Absolutely.
And yeah. So tell us a little bit about what podcast you guys have. This mystery podcast.
Woohoo. All right. So we run a podcast called Aurelius Whitlock's Murder Museum. It is a actual play solve-along murder mystery podcast that Marcus and I host. We take turns being the detective or curator of each little murder scenario. So for 4 or 5 episodes, we try to solve a murder that the other one wrote. So it's been a blast. We've been going for over a year now. So yeah.
Yeah, that's really nice. You guys, I just love the podcast because, Marcus, before we started recording, you can ask that question again
Oh yeah.
about.
Yeah. No, I was curious. So I've seen you around in both the Discord for Escape This Podcast and Finish It, and I think also EnigMarch and a few other places. So I'm curious, where did your podcast journey start? Like, where did you listen to first, and how did it connect you to the others?
Yes, that is a great question. And it's fun to relive stuff like this. So it was March of 2020, the dreaded COVID lockdowns. So basically, I had just gotten accepted into a job, which I was supposed to have an interview on my birthday, but that was the day everything got shut down on March 13th. So they postponed it, but I eventually did get the job, and I was working from home. They sent me my equipment, and then I was just doing like a monotonous job from home so much that I was just like, wait, I need to do something. So I like binge listened to all the Sherlock Holmes. I was like, what else? Greg Wagland on YouTube does such a great job reading those. And I was like, well, I need something else. So I was like looking for mysteries or something that like my brain, I'm weird where my brain has to be listening to something that's interesting while my hands are doing the monotonous thing. So if it's too much of a puzzle, I will actually have to pause what I'm doing. But if it's just like a passive listening thing, it's pretty nice to, have something to just chill out with.
Yeah,
So I was just like searching like mystery podcasts, murder mystery podcasts, but I didn't want like just like true crime or something like that. So when I saw Escape This Podcast come up, and it was the What Alice Found saga, I was like, hey, this sounds interesting. And I started kind of listening to one of those, but it was actually a what is it, podcast This Escape. So they were just talking about what they did, and I was like, wait, I'm missing something. So I tried to go back, but then since it was a saga, then I said, you know what, I'm just gonna go to the beginning of the whole thing. So I had a lot of backlog. I don't know if I ended up like listening to the whole thing and then listening to Solve This Murder because I was like, wait, they do have a mystery and it's the same people. Okay. And Solve This Murder didn't have too many out yet. So I kind of quickly binged those. And then I was like, you know what? This is cool. And when they created a Discord, I joined instantly. I even emailed them like, I just listened to your whole So that was like the first podcast that I actually really, really, really listened to all the episodes of and stuff like that. So after that, it was because the Yule brothers were on one of the episodes of Escape This Podcast, and they were like, check it out. And it was the Who Killed Harlow Thrombey, which was kind of like a murder mystery. So I was like, okay. Though I went to listen to it, and I was like, I literally listened to the first episode of Harlow Thrombey and was thinking, this is, it's not really, it's not really, I mean, listening to two guys reading through, listening to two guys reading through a Choose Your Own Adventure is a weird premise. But then I think for some reason I thought, let me just give it another try. And then instead of starting it, I mean, I think I did the whole Harlow for Zombie, and it started getting like, whoa, oh, this is cool. And then they started adding segments. I was like, whoa, this is kind of funny.
Yeah.
But then I said, I'm just going to go to the beginning. So I binged their whole podcast. And then
Wow.
I was like, okay. And yeah, EnigMarch, actually, I helped to start EnigMarch, and that was Sarah Wilson, who is around the Escape This Podcast community. So one day she just asked, like, there should be a thing, kind of like NaNoWriMo, for puzzles. And people are like, yeah, it should be. And then there wasn't. So she was like, I should make it. And people are like, yeah, you should. And then she was like, who wants to help me? And I was like, okay, me. So yeah, I was part of the first EnigMarch, and we had 2 so far, and
Yep.
we were about to have meetings for the 3rd one, which is very weird.
That's exciting. I think we have you to thank for some of the opportunities that Nathan and I have had recently. We've actually both started collaborating on a video game together, and the fact that we did EnigMarch, that gave us some puzzles to show to demonstrate. Yes, we've done
A
puzzle
portfolio,
design.
yes, we know what we're doing.
Wow, that's so cool.
So
yeah, and I was
good things are
saying-
happening because you guys set that up.
Well, thank you. Well, I'm glad to see it. I'm excited about this project. It sounds really cool. When can we expect? When can we expect it, or is it just in the works right now? It's a mystery secret.
That is a good question.
Yeah, I don't think we know the release date, but
Yes.
we're working for
So
a video game developer. So it's larger than just us two. If it was us two, then I could like tease and say like, it might be here by such and such day, but I do not know.
Well,
But-
we will just keep our eyes on the horizon.
I'm
for
sure
it.
that when it happens, we won't shut up about it. At least I won't. So
Rightfully so. Sounds
Yeah.
epic.
okay,
fun.
so and then you discovered us through Escape This Podcast as well, I would guess.
Yes, so I saw you in the Discord posting like, oh, we kind of recorded a thing. And it was like the first episode. And I just kind of listened to it and said, hey, this is kind of cool. And I just love how it's a museum and it has different exhibits. So you can explore so many different worlds and so many different stories, so many different genres, and so many different characters that you embody each time. But it's all kind of part of the same connected storyline. So that is just amazing because I am a person who has way too many ideas in my head too. And I'm like, I will probably never publish everything. So, I love how you guys are just like, you know what? Let's just put these out here. And that's what I did. I started just like putting short stories out because I'm like, you might not see the whole
fun.
thing, but at least I'm just
Yeah.
releasing some of the mysteries of my infinite imagination.
Right. Yeah, I think we really took the in some ways the quick and dirty approach. Just like, like this is not a fully well, actually Nathan's stuff is usually actually pretty fully realized, but it is a kind of a showcase of a lot of, like shards of ideas. But hey, this is the Just Do Stuff podcast. Like,
Exactly.
just doing stuff is good advice.
Yeah, and I like how you guys just did it. And you also are like asking the audience stuff like, do you guys like this? And I remember you guys were asking, and I think I did message you about like Pocket Watson. Like, I like the idea of Pocket Watson so much, but it's not consistent like when he shows up. So then I see you guys started like giving him other tasks like to be inventory
Yes.
and stuff. So that is really cool.
Yeah. Your feedback was some of the first that we got for this show. I reached out to a couple people on the Discord, and it was definitely helpful to hear.
Felt a little bit bad for Pocket Watson at some points because sometimes we would forget about him. So having him have a job is good.
But it's also fun how you kind of made it into his character to be like, oh, you
Mhm.
forgot about Megan. Oh.
Yeah. Yeah,
And it's like,
it became a
oh.
running gag. That's I
Mhm.
think the best thing to do with a forgotten idea is make it a gag.
Exactly. And then it's like, we did
Yeah.
this on purpose.
And it's like we did it on purpose. Exactly.
Planned
Mhm.
this from the beginning. Yes.
Exactly. I love when, like, as a creative, do you ever experience where you do something and you kind of don't know where it's going exactly, but then when it comes full circle, you're like, hey, that made sense from the beginning. Genius. And you just kind of surprise yourself. Does that ever happen?
Oh, yes. I don't know about you, Marcus, but for me, it was specifically with our podcast, planning out the meta arcs. There's been so Marcus and I each have our own arcs going on in the Murder Museum. With my arc that I was planning out, things I see it at the beginning, I was like, I don't really know where that's going. And then now that I've planned it all out, plotted it all out, I'm like, oh my gosh, I can pull that in there. That's genius. I didn't even know I was doing that. But yes, I'm going to use that now. Perfect. So I totally get that feeling. I love it.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that there are other podcasts or other creators that I've heard kind of treat ideas the same way, where they're like early ideas are kind of fodder for later ideas, and then it looks like it was foreshadowing rather than made up on the fly.
Yes. I love unintentional foreshadowing. It's like, wow, it's like the creative brain is so amazing.
Right.
Yeah,
So,
for reals.
speaking of that, like, what is your? Because I know you guys do the Murder Museum podcast, and I know you guys have done some other stuff because I began to be a stalker on the internet.
It's called being a fan.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was like, I
If you're a
don't know
stalker,
if
you're
I.
a very polite stalker, is what
Okay.
I would say.
Well, I'm glad you guys weren't creeped out, but I was like, literally, like, should I tell him? I was like, okay, I'm scared. Okay, I'm going to message Marcus today. Please don't think I'm like creepy stalker, but I kind of Googled your names and found stuff you did, and it's cool stuff. And then I know you were like, wait, what? Because I was like, what is your profile picture on Discord? And it was like a scarecrow with like a radio head. And I was like, that looks interesting. And I just reverse image searched and found another thing you did. And I was like, wow. And that was so
Yes.
amazing. And I was like, wait, should I tell him this? Because he's going to think I'm creepy.
I think you're resourceful.
Yes.
You're a detective at heart.
Internet detective, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like when Batman's late at night on the computer. That's how I feel like sometimes. But yeah, I'm just like, yeah, I guess I go down those rabbit holes when like I run out of binged podcasts. So I'm like, what do I do next? I want to listen to something while I'm doing this monotonous job. So then I just like try to search all the stuff. And you guys were an instant favorite. And I'm kind of glad to have gotten in on the beginning of it.
Yeah.
Like, you
Yes.
guys, I can see how you are growing already, but you guys were already really, really, really cool and feeling like you know what you're doing. Like, even if you guys
Aw,
were
shucks.
flailing behind the scenes, it doesn't seem like it to me at all.
You know, I feel like one of the keys has just been Nathan and I genuinely like talking to each other and
Yes.
genuinely get excited about each other's ideas.
I
So
can tell.
yeah, it's a good place to start, and then everything else can be pretty rough and tumble. But as long as we're like having a fun
Yeah.
time, people like listening to people who are having a good time.
True.
Exactly.
Because that's why I was like, at first with the Finish It podcast, I was like, it's a little weird, but I was like, wait, well, I just felt like I would listen to the one read, and like the first read they got was like, I guess either they figured out who it was instantly or something. I was like, well, what will be the good of listening to this 30 more times and they're reading? I mean, like me as myself, I loved like choose your own adventure style books and stuff. And when I was younger, I would love to read all the endings and stuff and just know what happens. But like listening to other people do it, I didn't get the like I wasn't feeling the excitement at first. But when I gave it another try, I'm like, hey, this is actually genuinely really fun and funny. and they're just talking and they're just goofing around. And it's just a time. Like, I know
Yeah.
not everybody can get with it. At first, I couldn't, but I've grown to like be like, wow, this is cool, and I wait for each new episode. So and you kind of feel like you know them because they like talk about their life and they talk about stuff, and then there's running jokes from like way other
Exactly.
books, and it's like, whoa, this is kind of cool. That's another reason why I like to binge from the beginning, because there are some things that, like, even in Escape This Podcast, Bill will like mention something and I'm like, I know what that's from. And the other
the
people
reference.
might not know. But I know, like, there was even a guest who I think they made a police officer named Johnny Coulson, and there was a running gag about Johnny Cools that Bill made before. And I was like, hey, that name sounds familiar. And the guest did say that was a nod to that. So it's
Yeah.
just fun.
That's awesome. And now here you are creating your own podcast.
Yes,
And the
Yay.
cycle
trying.
begins anew.
Yes, so once again, I don't know how this is going to turn out, but I will genuinely tell you that I am flailing behind the scenes here. But I am just honored that at the beginning of this journey, I just said, you know what, let me just do stuff, because some people said,
Yeah.
maybe you should start a podcast. I'm like, oh, great. Well, what should I do? I don't know. So I was just surprised that the people that I messaged, including you guys, were like, yeah, we can be guests. I'm like, what? I was not expecting. I wasn't expecting that you would want to be guests. So I'm like, wow, this is pretty cool. And I think and I hope that the listeners will enjoy it.
Yeah. I mean, you've set yourself up as a respectable member of the community. So I'm sure that there are numbers of other people who are like, oh yeah, I recognize Wordy Girl. I know that
Yeah.
username.
Nice. I can only hope. All right. Yeah. So what are some of like your favorite things to create? Like, I know you guys do the podcast, but like, what's one of the things
Yeah.
that you are most proud of creating,
Mm.
past, present, or something even that might be in the future that you can't tell us about yet?
All good things. You want to go first, Marcus?
Sure. Yeah. So, I mean, I'm proud of some of the music I've worked on, both for Aurelius Whitlock's Murder Museum and also other projects, the ones that you found through the image search, Radioland. I've really enjoyed working on music, especially when it's collaborations with other people. But some of, I think, my favorite projects are ones that I've done for a person or small group that are very difficult to share with the rest of the world. And I mean, I guess this is as good a time as any to spotlight them. Like, in my parents' basement, my mom has this like vintage doll house. It's like 3 feet by 3 feet, and I arranged the people in the rooms to be a murder mystery that you can look at all at once. So there's like one
Wow.
person in a room that's like being overcome with like this plant monster. Downstairs, a guy is under a chandelier. In the kitchen, there's someone cheating at cards, and if you pay attention, you can notice there's a mirror on the wall, and that's how he's cheating at cards.
Wow.
So it was something just for, a couple people to experience, but it was really fulfilling to do a non-linear, I mean, in a lot of
Yeah.
ways, the podcast has scratched the same itch. This was before the podcast, but it was a fun project to do.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is with me and murder. I think it's cut like the appeal is immediate for some people, like I could just tell a story through Dollhouse, but by having it be a murder mystery, people are like, I know why I care about this.
Instant drama.
Yeah.
Yes. I played with the
Exactly.
dollhouse. So fun.
Yes, it sounds so awesome. Like, I want to see it now.
I think I
And
might
I
have
just,
some pictures, but besides that, it's lost to time.
oh man. Well, I
Alas.
will love the pictures if you have them, because like just exploring little scenes, it's just fun. Like when you just see little people and you're like, oh, what are they doing? And to know that it's actually a murder mystery and you're trying to look for a clue, that's just very intriguing. I love that.
Yeah.
What about you, Nathan?
A couple things come to mind. I'm a big murder mystery fan, much like Marcus, and as we've established, that's like a whole shtick with the podcast. So the podcast, again, something I'm super proud of, that we've actually had something to show for our efforts, which I just love. I also super love going on the murder train, I guess. Building murder mystery dinners, so or parties. I've done a couple of those. I think we talked about one on the podcast, but
Yes.
um, just this year I've done
Those are
like
really epic, by the way.
yeah, it's so I love designing characters and how they interact, how their stories are interwoven, and then culminating in a climax. I love the chaotic moment right at the end where everything's happening. People are accusing each other, other people are dying. It's wild, and it's a lot of fun if you get a good group. And yeah, just being able to tailor a story to someone so that they care about the narrative, even if they're not the murderer or the detective. And that's just been a lot of fun. But yeah,
It's like a hard difficulty mode making an exhibit for the Murder Museum, because rather than curating an experience for one individual, you're curating an experience for 20 people and they're all interwoven. And there's something really fun about like monitoring it all and being like,
Yes.
okay, this person is trying to do this one thing and I need to make sure I notice when they finish their little quest. And Nathan, when he designs mysteries, makes them kind of very gamey. It's not just about information. It's also like, oh, you need to find all your hidden puzzle pieces, all these clues, which makes it a very gamey experience, which is a blast.
yeah,
Yes, and you guys are an inspiration because I love making games and stuff as well, and like making like the role playing kind of scenarios, even if it's just online on chat or voice or something like that. But sometimes I feel like murder mystery is a box. You have to do a thing that murder mysteries want you to do. So
mm,
I actually told Bill and Danny already, and they wanted me to be a guest and run a mystery for them that I told them about like a year or so ago. And the problem is, I was just like looking at it like, how can I, like, there's something here that's missing. Like, either it's going to be too easy and they're going to figure it out instantly, or it's going to be boring, or it's not going to have enough information. It's like, I kind of wanted to make it like a game. Like, don't just figure out who it is, like, go places, do stuff, and then it'll be
yeah,
kind of like an escape room, but it's like, not really an escape room, but you have quests, like you said. You like to give each little person quests and stuff like that. So I'm like, when you guys do that kind of stuff, I'm like, okay, this gives me permission to step outside of the traditional murder mystery box. And now
Right.
I'm actually making a lot of progress with it. So
That's great.
that's
I
hopefully
think
awesome.
that
that
will come together soon.
yeah, I think that Nathan's moonshine exhibit is a really excellent example of that, where it's murder mystery
Uh,
with like quick time events, puzzles,
yeah,
Yes.
places to explore.
I am always highly inspired by the media I consume, and murder mystery video games or mystery video games in general. I love those. Like growing up with like Professor Layton or the Nancy Drew video games, point and click, love those. And so being able to tie those into the murder mystery genre has just been so super fun. So yeah.
Yes. And like I love how he has it, like the quick time event type of thing, quick time event where on an old fashioned video game it'll be like suddenly it stops and is loading. It's like, wait, what happened? And then you have to watch a little cutscene. That's so
Yes.
fun. And that's how I feel excited like when something happens. And Marcus sometimes it's like, okay, then I do that, and then you're like, wait. First this happens, and then he's like, whoa. So
Yeah,
that's fun.
dreadful.
I kind of did, and my first escape this podcast room that I did, I don't know if you guys heard it, but it was called Lifestyle of the Fish and Famous. And basically Bill and Danny played through it, and they were trapped on a yacht of a billionaire. So he kind of like locked them into the basement of the yacht, and they had to get out. But there was a little bit more involved, and I actually had a lot of audio snippets that were cutscenes that happen, like
I'm a
when
fan
certain
of
things
those.
happen. So I like that kind of quick time event type of thing as well. Is I think what happened was somebody was going to go check something out. I was like, wait, you heard something in the closet first, and they're like, wait, what? And Danny was scared, and Bill was like, okay, I'm gonna go check it. So,
Oh my gosh, I've got to
um,
look this one up. I don't think I've heard that episode yet, but I'll absolutely look it up.
yeah, if you just Google my name, I won't think you're a creep. It will come up. Escape this podcast. I'll actually even send you the link. But for those of you at
Please.
home who want to, I will probably have show notes or something, and I'll probably put it there. But then I
Yeah.
might forget. Yeah, it's easy to do, but yeah, you will find it somewhere.
Awesome.
uh,
Oh, yes. Well, I just had a question. So speaking of like puzzles, so you designed an escape room. What other kind of puzzle do you design? Do you have a favorite kind of puzzle medium, like a example of a media, or just some sort of puzzle game or thing that you actually really like a favorite essentially?
yeah, I love all kinds of different puzzles. So I kind of like EnigMarch type of things. I make like connected games and stuff like that. But
Mm.
um yeah, the escape room, that was the first like virtual escape room that I made for them. I am also working on a murder mystery, as I mentioned. I'm also working on a like a choose your own adventure type thing, and that is
Oh,
something, but it's not quite a puzzle. Um,
yeah.
then I also just like a lot of times like hanging out in the discords and stuff like that. I sometimes like do text based adventure kind of things, but I'm
Mm.
the one running it. So
Hmm.
like how you mentioned earlier how it's fun to like give people a mission and just look and see what they're doing, like I know it's fun to also participate. I would love to participate, even though usually I don't. I'm usually the person who's running. Like, you know, in
Yeah.
D&D, like the game master is always the game master and it's like, well, when can I play? But
Yep.
yeah, it's fun to be the game master though, because there are some aspects of it that are really enjoyable. You get to see people playing in your environment and reacting to the things you did, and like seeing their reactions is just very satisfying, and it's just
Yeah.
fun to be able to say, ah, I put this together.
Yeah. I greatly prefer being a game master over being a player, and I'm not sure if it's because I'm conceited and I just like to hear myself talk, but that's very likely a part of it. Uh, but I think there's something extra satisfying and challenging about not only interacting with different characters and story beats, but trying to make it satisfying, like we were talking about with these other things. Trying to make stuff accidental foreshadowing. it's
Yes.
it can be like wrangling cats sometimes, like herding
Yes.
cats, but it feels so satisfying when someone's like, "Oh my gosh, I just realized something," or they have like a really cool moment. It can be a lot of fun.
Yeah, totally. Um, so one of the things I used to run a lot is something called the ECC, which is Epic Character Challenge. So, I'm in a lot of writing communities. So, um, sometimes people have characters in their book, and they're like they kind of want to figure out more about their own characters. Because yes, you write a character, but it's like, well, what about them? I was like, I don't know. They just do a thing. So I'm like, let's explore that, because I love character exploration,
Mm.
and just figuring out like. Then so many people are like, I figured out this about the character. I didn't know that. So I would put them through different challenges. Some of the challenges are to just write a story about a time when the character did something, or a theme of some prompt or something. But there's also an RP element of it. So I did these little things where the characters are all in the house together, and then certain things start happening at certain times, and then they have to work together. Some of them might be against each other, and
Ooh.
then there's what you call a plot twist, where they either go to a place, or like a special guest comes into the room that is controlled by me, and they either have to like try to escape, or they have to figure out a thing to do. And that's really fun to just look at them interacting. And they say they figured out so much about their characters just from like being in the environment, which is very fun.
Yeah.
That's a really cool idea.
Speaking of characters, Aurelius Whitlock is a very mysterious one, and I know when I was listening to that last episode, no spoilers, but the Q&A episode was hilarious. But I could sense that was about to happen, and I was like, wait, they're not gonna. And then it cut. I was like, okay, knew it. But I am still so curious about him, and that was a fun little thing. The dude, like, he's like, no, don't figure out.
We'll
I think
see.
you can hear the joviality in our voices, the
Yes.
excitement to share. It's clearly a setup.
Yes. And I was like, click the how many seconds left in this? Oh, okay. It's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
It's very funny. Yeah, we're excited to continue to explore that too.
It will be explored, yes. And I mean, speaking of other things we've done, Marcus and I did write a riddle book
Yes.
where Aurelius is a central character.
Yes, and I did see you posting about that book. I do need to check it out. So everybody needs to check that out. I hope I have the link in the show notes as well. Everything that I'm mentioning, I try to put the links. So hopefully look it down there. And if you don't see it, message me and let me know that it's not there.
Well, you're resourceful, so I'm sure if you don't have the link, you can find it through a little bit of snooping.
Yes, all the listeners, don't be stalkers, but it's okay to Google stuff.
Exactly. That can be your sign off. Be like,
Yeah.
don't be
Google
stalkers, but it's okay to Google stuff.
Yes.
That might be misinterpreted, but still.
Let's just do a couple of riddles.
Ooh, okay. Good.
Did you take out a notebook, Nathan?
Yes.
Man, I think I've said this on our podcast, but I feel like I like creating riddles more than I like solving them. Wait a minute. No, I shouldn't say I like it. I think I'm better at. All I mean is that I think that Nathan is maybe a little more apt at solving riddles, but I'm still excited.
We shall see. We
Well.
shall see. I'll definitely need your help. So.
All right. So we have a couple of them, and we will see which ones you will enjoy.
Ooh, okay.
All right. So this one is a very funny one, and I don't know why I named these. I mean, naming these characters this in a written medium is better than saying them out loud. So I should give them all different names, or just call them by their first letter, because I made all of their names rhyme. So I will say the names first, but then you can just start referring to them as their initials, so it doesn't confuse you.
All right.
So
Sounds good.
it goes like this. There are 8 people at a dinner party. Anne,
no.
Jan, Fran, Stan, Dan, Lan, Yan, and Zan. So that's just for funny. We're going to name them different things. We could just do 1 through 8 if you want, or we can say A, J, F, S, D, L, Y, and X. However you guys want to do that.
Okay.
And I see that Nathan is writing.
I'm good. I got it.
All right. All are seated at the dining table when the power goes out. They begin getting up from their seats and lighting candles around the room to help them see. But with the air conditioning out, it starts to get too hot. A, Anne, feels faint and drinks from one of the water cups. Several moments later, she dies of poison. The remaining guests all deny poisoning Anne. Now we have J, Jan, says that Anne was her best friend and she would never poison her. F, Fran, says that though the two had their differences, they managed to get along. S, Stan, says After their breakup, Anne seemed to hate him. Still, he remained amicable towards her, but moved on to date another. Dan, says that he just met Anne at the party and had no motive to kill her. Lan, came with Dan and therefore didn't know Anne either. This is such a tongue twister. Yan admits jealousy of Anne, but wholeheartedly refuses the accusation of murder. Zan is scared, crying uncontrollably. If all the guests are telling the truth, who poisoned Anne?
Oh. Okay.
Okay, so everyone gives a reason that they couldn't have done it. So if all of them are telling the truth, then we need to listen for a half truth. Like, I don't have a motive, but that doesn't mean that they didn't do it, right?
A contradiction. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Could we get the beginning bit again? The setup.
Yes. So there are 8 people at a dinner party. They're all seated at the dining table when the power goes out. They begin getting up from their seats and lighting candles around the room to help them see. But with the air conditioning out, it starts to get too hot. Anne feels faint and drinks from one of the water cups, and several moments later, she dies of poison.
Okay. All right. So we got Anne, who died of poison. Jan was the best friend.
Yes.
Fran had their differences, but they got along.
Yes.
Interesting. Stan just broke up, but they've moved on.
Yes.
Dan just met Anne, didn't know them before. Lan came with Dan, and so thus doesn't know them. Interesting. And then Yan was jealous, but wouldn't do anything. And Zan is scared and crying uncontrollably.
The only people who ever cry are guilty. So that
Exactly.
I've solved your riddle master. Should we hear the statements again, Nathan?
Yeah.
I mean, we can make this a little more interactive. If you want to ask them something, you can.
Oh, is it that kind of riddle?
Sweet.
I mean, it wasn't, but I'll do that.
Yeah. Okay. I don't want to ask this. So Lan and Dan came together.
Yes.
Okay. Was the water cup that Anne drank out of by her seat, or was it just a random one?
If you look over there, you will see that they all kind of got up and moved around, so you're not sure who was sitting where, but if you ask somebody, they will probably say that they don't know if Anne was sitting there or not, but she was feeling faint, so she just grabbed a random cup.
Okay. Interesting. So was Anne the intended target? Who is Stan dating one of the people present?
No. Stan is not.
Okay. Present. Okay. Why was... Oh, Marcus, you frozen? Okay. Good.
I'm still here. Why is Zan crying?
Why? Well, Zan crying, and why is Yan jealous? Ooh.
Okay. Yan is jealous of Anne just because it's like back in high school we were kind of rivals kind of thing.
Classic. Okay.
All right.
Crying uncontrollable. Zan is scared. Are they scared because they could be next because they thought they might be the intended victim? Am I overcomplicating this? Possibly.
Let's hear all the statements again.
All right, let's do the statements again. All right. Jan says that Anne was her best friend and that she would never poison her. Fran says that though the two had their differences, they managed to get along. Stan says that after their breakup, Anne seemed to hate him. Still, he remained amicable towards her, but moved on to date another. Dan says he just met Anne at the party and had no motive to kill her. Lan came with Dan and therefore didn't know Anne either. Yan admits jealousy of Anne, but wholeheartedly refuses the accusation of murder. Zan is scared, crying uncontrollably.
Okay. I have one theory, Marcus, that I'd like to pitch at you.
Please do.
All right. So what if Anne was trying to actually poison Stan because she hates him after that the fact that he's moved on to someone else. But in the darkness, after everything went out, she forgot which cup she'd poisoned, just grabbed a random one and grabbed the one that she had poisoned herself. And thus, she was her own murderer.
That feels like, I mean, there's nothing to disprove that idea. Interesting. So my question is this the type of riddle, Sandra, is this the type of riddle where there is a single, like, hitch? Like, aha, you should have noticed this one gleaming evidence.
Well, I will say that Nathan is correct.
Oh, good. Oh, that helps. Okay.
But yeah, I admit this was written a while ago, and it's not the most foolproof because there are some plot holes, obviously. Because like if Zan is crying, they don't have to be telling a truth or a lie because they didn't say anything. Therefore, they could be the murderer. But the theory is just like everybody kind of was telling the truth, but the person who couldn't say anything was dead because she did it herself. Yeah, I know that it needs some work, of course, but you guys did handle that pretty well.
Woo!
Yay!
I love a good lights out murder, so
Awesome.
All right, so that was pretty fun, I guess.
Yeah. I had a great time.
Hopefully.
Yeah, no, I enjoy hearing little puzzles like that.
All right. Did you guys want to try to do one more? It's going to be shorter than this one. Or do you want to
let's try one more.
All right. This is less of a murder. This is more just like a riddle.
Okay.
You work for a newspaper stationed in the second tallest skyscraper in the city. Your office is on the 5th floor. Your boss works on the 22nd floor. He asks you to meet him for lunch with your coworkers, Clark and Lois, on the floor where they work.
Curious.
To get to this floor, you will have to travel up, and your boss will have to travel down the same amount of floors. Upon which floor will the group of you meet for lunch?
Oh.
Okay, so between 5 and 22, but the fact that it's the same amount up and down makes me want to count to double check. I don't want to just if we just subtract, then that might be, or I mean just divide the difference. I'm not sure.
I'm nervous about getting my math wrong here.
Yeah.
Unless there's
Math is not my strong suit either, so do not be embarrassed at all.
Oh no, what comes after 8? Just kidding.
You know what's really good? Listening to two people count numbers in their head as they write over and over again 6, 7, 8.
I'm sure there's a community who will enjoy that podcast.
Marcus,
maybe.
Once you have your floor, let me know, because I have a...
Okay, and yes, that's where it cut off, unfortunately. I told you it was going to be a cliffhanger. So, I don't know if you figured out the answer to that riddle. If you did, I will give you a minute, well, a couple of seconds, to go ahead and pause if you're not ready for the answer. But if you are ready for the answer, the guys did get it right. Marcus and Nathan came up with the same number, which is 14. I believe the winning floor was the 14th floor. And the reason was because, at least in the U.S., most tall buildings do not have a 13th floor because of superstition. And that's the reason why you are able to go the same amount of floors up as your boss goes down, even though you started on an odd numbered floor and your boss started on an even numbered floor. So, I hope you enjoyed those puzzles. It did get a little bit hectic towards the end, but like I said, everything's a work in progress, and that's the whole thing of this podcast. Just do stuff, and that's what I'm trying to just do. So that's why I post these episodes today, just so that I can just do stuff. And please do rest assured that episodes in the future should be better. I'm trying my best. And I thank you for your patience, and I thank you for your understanding, and I thank you for tuning in. If you listened all the way to the end, you are amazing. I thank you so much for tuning in today, and feel free to message me anywhere, comment on this podcast, either on YouTube, Spotify, wherever you're listening to it, or email me at osandrawhite@gmail.com or something, and let me know that you listened to the whole thing, and I will give you a prize, because I appreciate it very much, especially with all these difficulties that I've been encountering. It is amazing to know that people are actually listening to the whole thing. And do tell me, what did you enjoy about the podcast? Or did you not enjoy it? That's okay too. I always need to keep learning, keep growing, keep improving, and the only way I can do that is if people give me good feedback. So once again, I appreciate you so much. Much love to you. That's all for this episode. Thanks so much for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed. If you'd like to find out more about me or the show, head over to thejustdostuffpodcast.com. This is your host, Osandra, also known as Wordy Girl, signing off. God bless, much success, and remember to just do stuff.